Alright, welcome to another video, and before we get started I'd like to take a quick minute to thank all the Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members whose names you see scrolling across the screen right now. They make this financially possible, and without you I probably wouldn't be here making videos, so thank you. Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at this new product, and if I show you over here in this camera, this is the Walksnail Avatar HD Pro Kit. It's a little bit different from the original, the Avatar HD kit that you can see here. And the fact that this one has two antennas, and you'll note that this one only has one. And the camera's a little bit different. The transmitter's a bit different. And there's some more important specs. If we take a look here on the back of the box, the packaging, you can see that there's actually 32 gigabytes of storage, and it does support GyroFlow. And there's a little USB extension cable inside as well that's included. So let's get everything out of the box and see what all is included and take a look at it. Alright, so as you can see, everything's packed nice and neatly, as has been the case with the previous Walksnail products that I've received. You do get the quick little reference sheet there. I'll kind of give you a minute if you want to maybe take a look at some of this. You can kind of pause the video. And hopefully that's in focus on the second camera over here. I'm trying a multi-camera setup here, so hopefully everything goes as planned. But yeah, as far as what's in the box, we get a little cable here. And I believe this is going to be the USB cable. Could be mistaken on that. And you see you have a single antenna, which is going to be different. Let me take one of the antennas out of this other packaging. Now this is the original full-size Walksnail kit. I just want to kind of compare the antennas. Let's take a look at them over in this other camera here so you can get a little bit better shot of them. If it'll focus. Come on, focus. So you can see the new antenna here is actually quite a bit smaller in height, but it's somewhat larger in diameter. So they are using different antennas, but interestingly we only get one now. So let's set this stuff aside and focus on the new product. So we get the one antenna now, which is a different antenna than what was included before. So I'll be flying with the stock antenna at least for a little while, long enough to give it a chance to prove itself. See if it does or doesn't work as intended. And let's go ahead and pull the camera and transmitter out of the packaging here. We'll set that aside and we'll remove the other stuff right over here. So that's everything that's in the packaging. And if we take a look at this little card again, and like I said, hopefully you can see this if it works out in the video good. If not, I'll have to overlay a picture of it later. But it's basically the 6-pin connector with 4 wires in it, which would be one end of this cable. That is going to be for USB. And then you also have this other little 4-pin cable over here is for your UART connection to your flight controller. But interestingly, they've done something different with this one. And you can see the pin out is actually etched into the side of the transmitter there. I'll kind of show you that over here. You see it's kind of etched in there, so it's easy to reference that if you should need to. But they've also included, besides the connector here, they've included some solder pads right there on top of the board, which hopefully you can see in this camera. You see there's some little solder pads there. And while I have it over here in this camera, I want to point out too, not only do we have the same 30 by 30 mounting pattern with the outer set of screws, but there's a second set of threaded holes here. Or these are actually screws in the top, I think. Or maybe not, they're all threaded holes, but you have a set of threaded holes on the bottom as well as on the top in a 20 by 20 mounting pattern. So those of you that are mounting this up to quad frames and things like that, that's probably a nice feature to have. Personally, I put everything I fly in airplanes, and I kind of end up making my own mounts. But it is nice to have that versatility, especially for the quad guys. So, like I said, for the USB port, if I can find what I did with that little bag. And I'm already misplacing things. Have I dropped it? Yes. Alright, so we dropped that on the floor. So, getting back to that little USB port, if I can get the bag open. And this is another little cable here. So we have this little UART cable here that will plug into the matching black connector over here on the board, and that you solder the other end to your flight controllers. They're just pre-tinned wires there. You can kind of terminate those with a connector, extend the wires, and do what you want with them. But basically, you'll run this back to your flight controller. You can use this cable and the matching connector, or you can solder straight to the transmitter board to those solder pads if you prefer to do it that way. And then over on the other side of the transmitter here, we have the USB port connection. The 6-pin side, there's only 4 wires in the connector, but there's a 6-pin housing, which will plug into the matching little connector. If you can see it down in there, there's a little white connector in that slot, in that edge of the transmitter. And the other end will plug into the included USB port, the little USB board here, like so. It'll match that little connector. Try to get you a good focused picture of that. There's a little USB-C connector there, and there's actually 2 connectors on the other side of the board. I'm not sure why there's 2 different sizes, because there's only one matching cable, which uses the smaller of the 2 connectors, which would be that end of the cable. So I'm not sure what this larger connector is for on the other side. Maybe they use this on more than one product. I don't know, just speculating. But it's kind of interesting. I like to see that they include this little USB-C adapter. If I take the second camera and actually show you over here, this is my eSky Eagle that I've been flying recently. And this has the Walksnail Nano kit in it with full-size transmitter. If I lift this canopy here, you can actually see on the bottom side here, I've actually done the same thing. I have my little USB-C breakout board here, just kind of glued inside the canopy, and this little cable runs back, and it is plugged into the transmitter right there where the USB port normally plugs. Because the full-size, the older transmitters, they came with a full-size USB-A connector for the USB port, and it really didn't work that well, so I'm really happy to see that they went to the USB-C. But yeah, there's probably some other changes that I'm overlooking. I know this camera should have a lot better low light performance versus the original cameras. This is using a Sony, I can't think of the name right offhand. I'll put a little note on screen. It's a new sensor technology. It's basically a backlit sensor that Sony has come out with, and a StarViz, that's the name of it. So it's a Sony StarViz sensor in here, and it should have really good low light performance. I'm just curious. I want to compare the camera module itself to the original one. If I can get the old one, or not old one, but the original, if I can get it down out of the packaging here. Pull the cover off of that. So yeah, if we compare the 2 connectors, the gray one is the original, the black one is the new one. It's a little bit longer. Other than that, it's pretty much same dimensions. The lens housing itself is no bigger, but the glass on the front is actually quite a bit bigger. You can kind of see there. So it should let in a fair bit more light. I don't remember what the field of view is right offhand on either one of these cameras. I know it tends to be pretty wide on the original Walksnail setup. I don't think it would get much wider on this one. I kind of prefer it to be a little bit narrower. I know the quad guys like the wide field of view, but like I said, being a fixed wing pilot, I kind of prefer a medium field of view. But we'll try it out and see what it looks like. So right now, this is just going to be a basic unboxing, and just kind of to point out some of the changes. So interestingly, like I said, there's 32 gigabytes of storage on board now, rather than the 8 gigs on the original, which only allowed for about 17-18 minutes of recording on board. So hopefully we have a lot more recording time on here. I believe the resolution on this camera is a bit higher. It's not like 4K or anything. If I remember right, I don't know the actual pixel resolution, but Caddx did tell me that this is 2K, what they're calling 2K resolution. We'll have to maybe find out some more specs later. Like I said, I just received this in the mail and just kind of doing a quick unboxing. I'm actually recording this before I'm allowed to post it. They haven't announced this publicly yet, but they sent me one to start testing and start getting some videos ready. So big thank you to Caddx and Walksnail for that. But yeah, another interesting thing, like I said, this does support gyro flow now. As you can see there, supports gyro flow. And I did ask the question because I was curious if the gyro, the IMU for, to record the gyro data to work with gyro flow, I was really curious whether that sensor chip is in the transmitter so that it senses motion of the aircraft itself, or if it's in the camera module. And the reason I wanted to know that, and personally I wanted it to be in the camera module and not the transmitter board, is because, like I said, I'm a fixed wing pilot. And again, if I show you over here, you can see I have my original Walksnail Nano system is mounted on a pan and tilt. So as I pan and tilt the camera around, I need that gyro to reference motion of the camera itself, the imager, so that it matches what the video sees, the actual video frame, rather than sensing the aircraft at the motion, or the motion of the aircraft while the camera's panned off to the side. Then roll becomes pitch and pitch becomes roll. As far as the gyro and the video are concerned, everything kind of gets out of sync there. But thankfully, they told me they did confirm that the gyro sensor is in the camera imager module, in the camera module. So really happy to see that, and it's going to work for my needs as well as anyone else as far as quads and everything. And not only that, even in quads, as you change the angle, the pitch angle on your camera, then the gyro data is automatically going to match what the camera records. So you don't have to do any fiddling around with that stuff in gyro flow to get everything synced up and matched up. The only other thing in the box is some looks like some M2 mounting hardware for the transmitter board as well as for the camera. Should work for that. I do believe those are M2 threads in the 20x20 mounting holes, as well as the screws for the 30x30. So that's pretty much it. That's my quick preliminary look. As far as what we're going to mount it in, I do have a Atom RC Swordfish that I was kind of leaning towards, but Atom RC actually sent me that one with an analog system, so I kind of feel obligated to review it with the included analog gear and then maybe upgrade it to HD later. So this is going to end up in my AR-Wing Pro. Being blacked out, especially with the single antenna, is going to be easy to mount it. The blacked out camera and transmitter is going to look great on a black AR-Wing Pro. And besides, the AR-Wing Pro Avatar HD Pro kit kind of meant to be. So that's plan of action as of right now. After I finish this video, I'm going to get to work on getting that actually installed in the wing and update some firmware, because you will need new firmware to support the gyro flow, the gyro data and everything. This will come with new firmware. I actually have a copy of the firmware. Haven't actually verified if the newer firmware is also going to work on my older gear, but I expect it will. But we'll get all that sorted out, and by the time you see this should be mounted announced publicly, and I'll have this mounted in my AR-Wing Pro fly-in, so there should be some videos following shortly. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all in the next video.